Hello, everyone. Reverend Sarah Grady from St. Paul's United Church in Paris. I hope you're doing great today. It is sunny today. The sun is out there, and it just does something for me. I don't know about for you, but it's so nice to see that sunshine, and the temperature is a little bit warmer. I'm hoping it'll melt some of the snow in our parking lot, especially around my parking space. I can barely get in there. So sunshine is the first thing. And I have a couple of things I just want to check in about before we jump into reflection time today. The first is people have been asking about reopening. And I know I made an announcement on Sunday, but I just want to make sure it was clear. So there are two phases to our reopening. The first is we are reopened in our church building for groups that meet, for office hours, and all of that kind of stuff throughout the week. But we're not open for in-person worship just yet. And that is simply because we have this guest preaching series that's online, and that's happening for a few more weeks. So we are going to be back for our first in-person worship on Sunday, February 27th, and I am the final guest preacher in the series, so that just, it makes it easier for us. In our sanctuary, we just don't have amazing capabilities with showing videos. It's a little difficult to see, so it just seemed the easiest. It's also the final Sunday before we jump into the season of Lent, so it's a good transition time for us. So Sunday, February 27th for our first in-person service of worship, for those who are wondering. And we will be doing our regular 10:30 services going forward from there. So alongside talking about reopening the office, there's something I probably haven't made very clear, or that folks maybe were a little bit confused on, and that is I do take days off, and a lot of clergy take Mondays off, but I actually take Wednesdays. It was Thursdays when I first started. It has shifted to Wednesdays. That's what works better for my family. And so we are going to be shifting our office hours as well to keep in line with that. We thought that might just be a little bit easier to help people remember. We are going to have office hours on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays going forward. So the church office is closed on Wednesdays. I am off on Wednesdays unless it is an emergent pastoral care situation or some other type of emergency. You can certainly reach out, but Wednesdays are my day off. So that's just an update for folks. The last thing I want to quickly talk about is our silent auction. We have lots of great items that have been donated. We have been struggling to figure out creative ways to do fundraising in these challenging pandemic times. And so we have an online silent auction. Lots of great items have been donated for it. It goes live this coming Saturday, and it will be up for just 1 week. And we hope that people jump on there, see the great things that we have, and bidding wars are encouraged. So this past Sunday, we had Reverend Susan Cole from Knox United Church in Embro introducing us to Bina, a sister of Jesus. And what an interesting thing. We know so little about Jesus's backstory, right? We know about his birth story, but we kind of jump from his birth to when he started his public ministry around age 30. And we don't have a lot of in between. And when you think about your own life, how much happened in those formative years of being, all the learning that you did as a toddler, growing into a child, and then your teenage years, your adolescent and teenage years, and then your 20s. I mean, who didn't really go through some soul searching and trying to figure out who they were in their 20s? But we don't know any of that stuff about Jesus. There is nothing in the Gospels or anywhere else that tells us about Jesus growing up. And so what an interesting thing to think about Jesus as a brother to sisters and brothers, to be Jesus as a sibling. For those of you who are only children, I don't know if that's an interesting thing or just weird to think about. I myself am one of 7 children, and so this is a very interesting thing for me to think about, Jesus's home life. And it just does something for me to think about Jesus in these terms and think about his humanity. It's pretty cool. And some of the questions that Betty Radford Turcott asks for discussion around this chapter and this character Bina. The first one is, have you ever given much thought to Jesus's brothers and sisters? And does it make any difference to you if there were siblings to Jesus? So that's the first question. The second thing she asks, and this one is interesting to me, What is it like to have someone held up before you as better than you? Because that's everything that happened in this chapter. Was Bina talking about Jesus being this perfect sibling that nobody could ever live up to his expectations. She was always getting in trouble for being mischievous, but Jesus was never in trouble. He was the perfect child. And it's an interesting question. What is it like to have somebody held up as better than you? I mean, have you ever had a parent or somebody else in your life compare you to a sibling or somebody else? Like, why can't you be more like ... That can happen in a classroom setting if you're an only child. Maybe that hasn't necessarily been your experience with a sibling, but maybe it's happened with a cousin or with a coworker or as a student. That could have been your experience too. So those are the things that I want to hear you chat about this week. Send me a message and let me know your thoughts on that. What is it like to think about Jesus having this home life with siblings and being this perfect child, and others having to live up to the perfect Jesus, the shadow that they supposedly lived in this chapter. So some interesting thoughts for this week. I hope everyone is doing great. I hope that you're safe. I hope you're well. And of course, as always, I hope I get to see you soon. I'll talk to you later, friends.